When the Mercedes Benz C43 AMG first hit showrooms, everyone was up in arms. How could they? How could they throw on an AMG badge for a car that didn't have a V8 engine? It's not a real AMG. Well, in 2025, it's gotten even worse for Mercedes-Benz buyers because the C43 now has a hybrid 4-cylinder. So here we are a few years later, and is this generation for the C43, the W205, is this a great value on the market right now? Well, in today's video, we're going to find out. This video is courtesy of Infinity of Norwood in Norwood, Massachusetts. And I want to thank them for letting me come down here to check out their C43. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Infinity inventory. Now, why were purists so up in arms? Mostly because it didn't have a V8. But this was also around the time when most of the German manufacturers were diluting their performance brands, where BMW started slapping on the M badge to everything that wasn't worthy of having that particular moniker. But as time has progressed, whether it was the M340i, M440i, X5, M50, or even for Mercedes-Benz with the C43 AMG, we've all kind of accepted this now. We've accepted the middle-tier performance car that gives buyers a lot of fun, a lot of value, and they're not spending $100,000. With the C43, this car is most certainly overlooked. In fact, I remember the days in 2017, 2018, this car was hated. This car was really hated by many enthusiasts and purists because it wasn't a C63. But being behind the wheel now and understanding what this car is all about, what a mistake that was. This is actually a really enjoyable sedan. Now let's first start off with the performance. You have a 3-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine, producing 385 horsepower and 384 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with a 9-speed automatic transmission. Comparing that to an M340i of its day or Audi S4, on paper this thing was much more powerful, and also 0 to 60 times came in at 4.1 seconds. This thing was a rocket ship in a straight line. But better yet, with the C43, I like to think that this is a bit more aggressively tuned. The suspension is very stiff, very rigid, and in fact, there's a lot more confidence here where it doesn't necessarily feel like a luxury sedan. It feels like something a bit different. With this aggressive and beefy leather-wrapped steering wheel, which feels really great in the hands, by the way, there's a lot of confidence entering these corners. You feel as though that you can take these corners at much higher speeds, and really, for a car that has all-wheel drive, it's a great year-round car that you could throw this sedan around on winding back roads during the winter or during the summer. Whereas with the C63, that rear-wheel drive could be a bit of an issue on icy roads. Best of all, with this powertrain, it has a nice growl to it. And we also have the performance exhaust here. Let's step outside and listen to it. With the 9-speed automatic, I will say that it's a bit clunky. It feels pretty clunky here compared to the ZF 8-speed that's found in BMW, in an Alfa Romeo Giulia, for example. And I do think that even from Audi, with the S4 of its time, the B9, B9.5, the ZF 8-speed was a bit smoother here. The 9-speed does give you some engagement, though, because you do get pushed back in your seat, and with the power this car can put down, it's most certainly exhilarating. While it may not be as hardcore as the C63, and it might not be as exciting when it comes to its overall performance, this is one of those sedans where you can kind of relax a bit and just enjoy the propulsion that you're getting here out of this V6. That it's almost effortless, and that might be why a lot of purists really never took too kindly to the C43. That it's a little too simple, it's a little too soft, it just isn't there to be worthy of the AMG badge. Now, best of all here is that you can adjust the driving experience to your liking. You can go comfort, sport, sport plus. You can also adjust the suspension. You can go sport, sport plus, or comfort, and you can use this as a comfortable daily driver. basically as a faster C300. That's partially the problem here with the C43, especially for this generation. It's too much like the C300 in its design, in its mannerisms, in its interior. Although, that's a bit of a different story here for this car, so let's once again step outside and check out what this car is offering us for its design and also for its interior. As we take a look at the exterior for the C43, it's somewhat unassuming in nature as you take a look at the exterior design. It kind of looks like a C300 with the AMG line package, which might be the point here. This car was supposed to be a performance luxury sedan, and it did that job pretty well considering its performance. And it wasn't going to be the all-out track monster that we have with the C63, or should I say we had with the C63 for the W205. However, there are some aesthetics that I do like here about the sedan. Up front, you are going to receive full LED headlights and LED daytime running lights. These are the updated lights, so you can have better visibility at night or in adverse weather conditions, also when you are cornering late at night as well. You can have that standard grille here with the emblem in the center. Brushed aluminum accents, very nice, very classy. You're not going to have the gloss black trim. You're not going to have the honeycomb mesh grille here. This car can really fly below the radar in many ways. Then for the lower portion of the front bumper, you have some gloss black there and also functional side air curtains so that we have better airflow when you are on the highway, helping out with that overall efficiency. And you will have some aggressive body lines on the hood and front fenders. Now, of course, you're going to have the AMG wheels here, which look really nice, aggressive, two-tone look, matching the gray color that we have here on our model, but I like these smaller details. The gloss black side mirror caps and the gloss black side blade here that runs the length of the side profile. I love those small touches. Those are the small details that Mercedes-Benz excels at. You're also going to have gloss black trim outlining the windows here, which again gives you that contrast, but isn't going to be the chrome look that we had for the C300. And then as you make your way around to the back, you're going to have LED tail lamps. And I must say, this generation, the W205, kind of look like its bigger sibling, the E-Class. So in some ways it looks a bit more upscale than the price tag would have suggested back in 2020. You're going to have a small, subtle deckless spoiler, reminding you that the C43 is supposed to be sporty in nature. You have the C43 badge, chrome accents on the trunk, but the best part though is the quad exhaust tips and the gloss black rear diffuser. So nice here. That two-tone look found throughout for this model is the right touch. It's the right balance for the C43. Now, some people would say, but the quad exhaust tips reminds me of the C63. I don't like that. But I have to say here, it's a nice touch for the sedan. It reminds you that it's not going to be the C300. It's not going to be as boring either. Then spending some time inside the C43, for one, our model is very well spec'd here. We have some optional packages which do bring a lot to the table, such as the full digital gauge cluster, which some people might say I'd rather have the analog gauges. I don't need a full digital gauge cluster, but you might want to think that through for a minute, because that infotainment system you see on the dashboard does not function as a touchscreen. Instead, you'll be using the dial and quick access buttons on the center console to get to different menus efficiently. I don't really like that setup at all. In fact, I hate it. Even though this is very similar to a B9, S4, and S5, just the way that the infotainment system is laid out, this wasn't the best from Mercedes-Benz. That's one thing I'm going to stand by, because the technology that we have here for this car, I don't think is really on par with some of its rivals, especially Audi back in 2020. However, though, aesthetically for this car, Mercedes-Benz nailed it, and the previous owner chose the right specifications here. So you are going to have a leather-wrapped steering wheel, feels really nice in the hands, aggressive 10-2 and firm 9-3 grips. Best of all, these paddle shifters are not plastic. So when you're rolling through the gears yourself, you can have a lot of fun and feel fully engaged. You're also going to have the carbon fiber inlay on the dashboard, which is really great because C43s of this time, you could go with a wood grain trim, which isn't really that inspiring if you're buying this car for performance. And then we also have the optional red leather sports seats, which I have to say, what a great package, because with these seats, they're comfortable, they're supportive, and they give you a lot of bolstering here. They fit the personality of this car, and on those winding back roads, I was really enjoying my time being behind the wheel of this car. Now, when it comes to the comfort, though, I think on those longer road trips, on those longer drives, you'll find yourself very relaxed here with this car. Then lastly, above, you are going to have that optional panoramic sunroof, which brings in a lot of natural light to the interior and opens up the interior more importantly. Now, also getting to the ergonomics of the interior. You are going to have those touch-sensitive icons on the steering wheel, which help you control that digital gauge cluster, then also helps you control the infotainment system. We do see this still from modern-day Mercedes-Benz products. Also on the dashboard will be physical buttons to help you control the dual-zone climate control, AC, front rear defrosters, fan speed, and fan direction. Then further down will be quick access buttons for your navigation, radio, media. You also have an analog clock here, which is really nice. And that was huge at the time. Late in the 2010s, analog clocks were everywhere. Now you don't see that anymore. So it's a nice touch that we still have here for the C43. And then also, just like we see for every other Mercedes-Benz, even today, now in 2025, you're going to have your seat controls here on the door panels for both sides, and 3-position memory for both the driver and passenger. And these seats will be heated too to keep yourself warm during those winter months. And then you're also going to notice your speakers for the Burmester audio system. So really nice, very standard here with the C43. And then for the second row, probably the most noteworthy aspect is the fact that these seats are very plush and supportive, much like we have up front. So it is designed to be somewhat of a Grand Tour. This is still a traditional sports sedan, so it's not going to have the Grand Tour feel and vibe here. But if you do have passengers in the second row, they're going to be comfortable. Now, of course, having that panoramic moonroof does bring a lot to the table because it brings in some light, but also makes you feel as though you're not sitting in a cocoon or you're sitting in a cave here. So I do like that. Now, also interestingly enough, we don't have heated outboard seats, but we do have 2 USB inputs and a 12-volt outlet. I kind of like that here. So we can plug in our smartphones. There's 2 center-mounted air vents and obviously 2 cup holders as well with that armrest. But very standard stuff here for the C43. I will say there's a few things I don't like here about the C43, mostly because with the vast difference between the C43 and C63, I feel like I'm missing out on something here. Whereas with the Audi S4 and BMW M340i, not so much, right? Like, yes, the M340 to BMW M4 is a huge leap, but it's not like you're going from a inline 6 to a V8. Whereas with Mercedes-Benz, that's exactly what you're doing here. And the same goes for Audi. You're not jumping from a V6 to a V8. So from that perspective, I look at the C43 as the junior AMG. That this is not the true, authentic experience, right? However, looking at this 5 years later, the C43 is actually an underrated car. That yes, the AMG badge, it's been diluted. The meaning behind the AMG badge isn't as strong as it once was. However, when you're comparing this to the S4, to the BMW M340i, it's actually one heck of a car. Also on top of this, you had choices between the C43 Coupe and C43 Cabriolet. So there was options there. You could go in different directions, and whatever you were looking for, you would get that out of the Mercedes-Benz lineup. But I fully understand now as to why Mercedes-Benz purists didn't like this car. But looking at this car now, comparing it to the W206, the V6 is exactly what Mercedes-Benz needs to get back to. That they need a C43 with this powertrain. That a hybrid 4-cylinder isn't going to cut it. And Mercedes-Benz took a huge risk. They took a huge leap there. And they kind of paid the price. They paid a huge price there, where now everyone just buys a BMW. So, looking at this car now on the used market, is it a great value? I think it is. Mostly because this is one of those cars, you get impeccable performance, and also you fly below the radar. It looks too much like the C300, like I said before, and at least design-wise, it's tame. Get behind the wheel, you'll be singing a different tune. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this blast from the past with the W205 Mercedes-Benz C43. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.